It's a new year. Happy New Year, everyone. And as it is a new year, we are discussing everything that happened last year and speculating about what the new year will bring. 2025 was an interesting year. One thing we saw that was a massive change was the amount of AI generated models. Not everyone's cup of tea, but you cannot deny how massive that hype was. But I believe that is slowing down simply because of the hype. It may well have been a bubble. We became saturated with AI models, and noticing these on hosting sites like Printables and MakerWorld is now painfully obvious. Even if you can't see the little note that says it was AI generated, you can just tell on first glance. At this time, I believe the community has become desensitized to these models because they're all created to fulfill a particular niche. Cute, throwaway slop. But I don't think this will be the end of AI. Sorry. Autodesk recently announced their AI-generated parametric tools, so shall we see Slop entering the world of step files? Well, for once I'm actually optimistic about this. Okay, I'm cautiously optimistic about this. 3D printing back in the late noughties was hailed as something of a holy grail for domestic use. You have a 3D printer in your home and you print what you need to maintain and upgrade that home. That was grossly overhyped. The amount of crap in your home and things that are added to it every year that are different and non-standardized, it's impossible for someone without CAD experience to mod things. But with an AI that can create something functional that is dimensionally accurate to specification, suddenly that's not so much of an obstacle anymore. Provided Autodesk are not the gatekeepers to this, we might just see something like that this year. Maybe. Because while a text prompt can work for something artistic, anyone who's ever used CAD knows that you can't simply use a text prompt to create a constrained sketch. We had a little bit of a material innovation jump this year with filaments like Bambu and Polymaker's PPS-CF, and this was released in conjunction with printers that had high-powered hot ends going up to 350 degrees and with heated chambers up to 60 or 65 degrees. And this became almost standard for flagship printers. So many printers now have heated chambers. The new Max 4 from Chiditech, Core 1L, Q2, K2 Plus and Pro, they all have heated chambers. We had things like Polymaker's HT PLA giving PLA heat stability up to 150 degrees, and also PIBA got a lot more attention this year. It's been around for a while for sure, but people are noticing it finally. And just recently we added Spectrum's HDPE filament to our assortment. This is a polymer that is notoriously difficult to print and because of that has been underutilized in 3D printing. One thing that I had hoped for at the end of last year's video was to see new innovations from the DIY, independent and open source communities. And while there certainly were advances, there was just way too much noise from everything else for new people to hear about these. It was actually easier to hear about the bad things or the responses to bad things. But there were things like Joshua Bird's non-planar printer, bricklayering, the Antithesis engineering printer, and more recently the Rep 5X project. But in terms of real change, not that much happened until late summer. And when I did the What's Gonna Happen in 2025 video last year, I spoke a lot about what Bambu had done and how everyone was catching up with them. And that certainly continued. There are a lot of printers that were emulating other printers this year, copying the general vibe that the X1 had. And those printers I mentioned that had heated chambers, they're all pretty similar to the X1. Nothing huge has changed here. And I guess it wasn't really a surprise when Bambu released the H2S, a dual extruder printer with an AMS that allowed quick color change with less purge, a 350 degree hot end and a 65 degree chamber heater, and a 10-watt laser for engraving and cutting. In the video last year, I predicted that more printers would be application-based. There would be nothing new and novel, and all the budget printers would be clones. That was a pretty conservative view. It was easy to see, and that was the case, at least for the first few months. We saw a capability increase, more printers that could print more filaments just out of the box, heated chambers, high-powered hot ends, lasers. On the budget side, we saw things like the Creality High, the Elegoo Centauri Carbon, the P2S, the Cobra 3V2, all very similar devices. And then Christmas came early. It seemed everyone everywhere was giving Toolchangers and nozzle swappers a new lease of life. A tech that had been previously too expensive for consumers just came back with a vengeance. Cheaper, easier to use, and just shitting all over other printers. With the following months adding new announcements and releases to add true multi-material capability, end timely color changes, and reducing purges to a minimum. So what will we see this year? Well, we will surely see cheaper tool changers and similar technology. That's expected. Anyone in the 3D printing community can tell you that. I think there, however, will be a niche focus on what you can do with multi-material options. In the past, multicolor has primarily focused on PLA, so it was geared to the base community, people who did this as a hobby. But since last year, and actually before last year, things have been changing. True multi-material capability has come at last. PLA is the material of the AMS, the material of FlexiDragons. With capability and ease of use increasing, I think we'll see more focus on functionality rather than aesthetics. And that will go hand in hand with AI modeling, provided it can be utilized as suggested earlier. We might actually see a 3D printer marketed specifically for home use soon. I don't mean a printer for use in a home. I mean a printer that is designed specifically for printing home things and to be used by people who would ordinarily not be into 3D printing. This would require a more appliance-like device and a printer that can blend into a home instead of just being hidden, and one that is quiet. While the X1 and the emulating printers were designed to break into the prosumer market, a printer that could print high-strength materials just as easily as PLA, by the time the H2D came around, the market had swung around to people who were captivated by the hobby and were not at the time die-hard makers or professionals looking for easy prototyping. 3D printing became popular. Printer speed and material properties have increased massively over the couple of years, and material affordability is decreasing even more, and with failure rates plummeting. With multi-material functionality adding rigidity and flexibility in one piece and easier support options, making something that is functional, ergonomic, long-lasting, and just faster, the time is now ripe for this kind of printer. The only thing holding people back from having a printer in their home that can print custom items and replacement parts for their things specifically is themselves, their own skills with design, or an up-to-date and very well-stocked library for these items. This has to change. But if you're wondering whether we'll have 5-axis this year, probably not commercially. At least not until someone in the open source community can develop an easy-to-use and reliable slicer for manufacturers to be inspired by. Maybe then. And if you're wondering what the next step is from Toolchangers, well, it's full color, and with the Eufy Make E1 printer, we're beginning to see the stepping stones to that. But we have been waiting quite some time for FlashForge's CJ270 printer, and pretty much no updates since the start of the year, so I can't really speculate further on that, I'm afraid. I'm a little pessimistic of how the open source community will play a role in the printer world this year. I'm actually pessimistic about how non-Chinese manufacturers will grow this year too, but I am optimistic about capability and availability to the community. But like I said last year, we just gotta wait and see.